Nothing we say is investment advice. Please pause on all 3 pages of this disclaimer and read it.
Greetings, Algo Artisans. This is Nick, aka the Algo Cowboy here, and we are going to look at a very interesting week this week. We have some data coming out that is not the normal data, could cause a lot of movement in markets, give us a lot of opportunities to trade. Before we get into it, click the link in the description. Get your free algo. You do have to optimize it. It's not ready to trade until you do that, but you get to see me create the algo, turn it into code using grok.ai. You get to see the tools that traders use to connect it to their exchange so it can trade while they're not even sitting there, right? They could be out golfing, sleeping, whatever, and it's trading for them. All right, so we're going to take a look at the usual suspect this week. We're going to take a look at the NASDAQ, USDJPY, EURUSD, Bitcoin, USD CAD, AUDUSD, GBPJPY, and gold. Before we take a look at that, we're going to take a look at the news and data that can affect the charts over at forexfactory.com. Now, the big news does come on Thursday, so our charts go through Wednesday. We're going to start on Tuesday at the European Open with the British unemployment data coming out at 2 a.m. EST. Then we have the European Purchasing Managers Index, which basically is a great economic indicator for how well businesses are doing. That's going to be 3:30 a.m. EST. Then we have the GBP, the British PMI, at 4:30 a.m. Then we have the USD unemployment, retail sales, employment data all coming out all at the same time, 8:30 a.m. EST. And then we have the PMI data coming out for the US at 9:45 a.m. EST. European Open, we have the British CPI year over year, big deal for the British pound. And then at 4:45 p.m. EST is the New Zealand GDP quarter over quarter, big deal for them. And then the fireworks happen all on Thursday. Thursday is going to be an interesting day to trade. You have the British pound's version of the FOMC, so the Bank of England's monetary policy summary, bank rates, all that stuff happens 7 a.m. EST on Thursday, and then 7:30 a.m. they have their presser. 8:15 a.m. is the European version of FOMC, so it's their main financing rate. Their presser is 30 minutes later, but before that happens is going to be the USD data coming out, and that's the CPI year over year. Big deal. We might see the month over month as well. Either way, this is going to be a big number that people look at, and they're going to look at it because of what might be coming next, either later on Thursday, early on Friday, is the Bank of Japan policy rate, which is probably the biggest event of the week. They've been talking about strengthening their currency, hiking the rate, and that just has a lot of implications. Without talking too much about it, it has to do with the JPY carry trade. But long story short, sometime Thursday evening or early on Friday, they're going to talk about that, and therefore our predictions end before that. And once that data comes out, that's pretty much it, and that could give us a lot of great trading opportunities. We do have the European Open, the British pound retail sales month over month, and that's at 2 a.m. EST on Friday. However, the British pound might take the cake for the big movement. Let's go ahead and take a look at the charts. We'll start with the NASDAQ. I expect the NASDAQ to go sideways. There was a strange gap up on the CME as it closed and then opened this afternoon, but I do expect it to grind sideways and down. It might break below the 25,023 sort of lower bound. That could happen. If it did, your next level below would be $24,594 as far as where price might go in that case. I wouldn't look for a whole lot out of the NASDAQ outside of the data events that happen, but really anything could happen this week. It's a bit unpredictable. We're going to take a look at the USDJPY. Interesting afternoon price did attempt to break a local support at 154.829. However, it was unable to do so. So our local supports right now are at 154.33, 34. It could break right below that. If it does, your next level down is 153.64, right? So if price grinds down sideways and stays above 154, that's my primary look at this week, but it could actually head down and break below depending on the news. Let's take a look at the euro. So it's a reverse of the JPY where it's going to probably grind up and to the right. You might get a pullback, but I think it's going to get held. I think it's going to either go maybe down to this 117.25, maybe get stopped at 117.38. But in the end, I think it's going to approach this local upper bound of 177.78, and it might break above that up towards the 118.20. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin's pretty bearish. It may or may not jump up just short term to get 87,200, 300, 400 or something, but I think it's going to grind down, and it may grind down rather quickly. It might surpass the bearishness of what I've drawn and just like break straight down to 80,000, or it could just kind of break down towards 83,000 and bounce and then break down later. But I don't expect price to stay above this 83,000 this week. Now, of course, the bulls could kick in. It is Bitcoin. Things can change, data can change, all that, but the algos have it going down and to the right for most of this week, stopping at either 83,700 or 80,700. Let's take a look at USD CAD. Now, I expect this to go sideways this week. It's been bearish for a long time, heading down like all month and even before. So it might just go sideways this week. If it breaks above 137.98, or if it breaks below 137.26, then it could actually go pretty hard in either of those directions, but I don't expect it to do that. I think it's going to grind sideways until that late Wednesday, early Thursday, where the CPI and BOJ data come out. Let's take a look at the AUDUSD. So the Aussie, I think, will grind sideways. It may break briefly below here, but as it stands, I think it's not going to go too far below this kind of 68,100-ish area. It's pretty bullish in the high time frame. We could see a pullback, but I do expect to see sideways and eventually, if not right away, a move up. I don't know that it's going to make it all the way to 66.88, this local upper bound. It may or may not do that. We'll see. Again, it's kind of a sideways chop, so really anything can happen. And it's a crazy week. Let's take a look at GBPJPY. The beast is pretty bearish. I think it will soon break below 207.23, this lower bound that's created by this other structure from back here. And I think it'll go towards this 206.161, 162 area. I think that's where price is going to head. It may break below that. It may not. We'll see what it does when it gets there. But right now, down and to the right are what I see for this. Now, gold is pretty simple. I think it's going to grind up and to the right. I think it's going to be higher than it is right now by the end of the week. It's just a question of whether it can break this 4,355 area or the all-time high around 43.83. But I think it's going to grind up and to the right. And that's probably going to be it for gold. Maybe a pullback, maybe not. Lower bound is at 42.64. I don't think it's going to break that outside of any news or surprises. And that's what we do here at Algo Factory. We predict where price might go and when it might get there. And when you have that kind of data and you're accurate a good percentage of the time, at least half the time usually, you don't have to be right all the time or even a lot of the time. As long as you're right more often than you're wrong, you can be profitable in this game. You can extract money from this market on a regular basis. We teach people how to do that at Algo Factory. As a matter of fact, you can see it happen in action. Just go to the link in the description, get the free algo. You do have to optimize it before you trade it. However, you get to see me build it. You get to see me turn it into code by using grok.ai. And then I show you a lot of the tools that traders use to connect it to their broker so it can trade while they're not even at the computer, while they're sleeping or golfing or what have you. We hope to see you early Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 8:30 a.m. EST. That's when we do our daily look. We look at the new data that's coming on the market, and if we need to refine the looks that we've seen today, we do it then. Thank you all for watching. We hope to see you soon.